Right. It is low mood month, and I'm chatting with Sara Southgate. Sara, do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Sara Southgate. I am a naturopath and perimenopause specialist, and I am in perimenopause with you guys as well. So I know how you feel. I work with women one-to-one, and I also run a group program for women to feel better naturally. So I'm helping women who maybe can't safely take HRT or who don't want to take HRT.
Perfect. Low mood. It's a horrible one, isn't it? It's really, I mean, I was going to say it's really depressing. Obviously it is, but it can come just from out of nowhere, can't it?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, like you said, it's not very nice to feel low when there appears to be no reason for it. Um, but when we think about it from a naturopathic perspective, actually there are quite a few things that you can do, either foods that you can eat or nutrients that you can focus on, that can help to improve your mood.
Excellent.
Mm.
So I'm going to ask this as a sort of a double header. So if somebody, would you tackle it differently if somebody was kind of having cyclical low mood around their period versus constant low mood?
Well, so that would give you a clue, wouldn't it? So if it's constant low mood, it's unlikely to be so affected by hormones. Although, we are whole women, we have a complex set of body systems which interact with one another, they overlap, they talk to each other. So there's usually more than one root cause. But that is different to somebody whose mood is, lower ovulation and low before menstruation. So it's looking at all of those things. And working out, well, what are the clues, where are the causes, and then there are other people whose mood can fluctuate enormously through the day as well. So there's lots of different ways that it can present, and how it presents gives us clues in how we can fix it.
So let's sort of focus, I guess, mostly on the sort of the cyclical one and the fluctuations through the day, because I think those are the ones that are most common for women in peri. Where do you start? How do you help people to kind of come out of this?
So as a naturopath, I always start by looking at what they're eating and how they're living. So food and mood are so inextricably linked, and I know that the power of food over mood is enormously underestimated. So people just don't know how powerful it is to change the way you eat, or when you change the way you eat, how it can really have a powerful impact on your mood. So one of the subjects that I get on my soapbox about is blood sugar balance, right? So blood sugar is the fuel that our bodies run off, okay? So when we eat something, our body translates that into blood sugar, and it's that blood sugar that feeds our brain, our organs, and our muscles, all right? It circulates around the body. Now, when we're eating foods that translate into blood sugar very quickly, that means you get a very high spike of blood glucose. And that is an emergency situation for the body. It's stressful for your body because that sugar causes inflammation in your arteries. So your body wants rid of it as quickly as possible. So it secretes insulin. Insulin's job is to get rid of that sugar, and the blood sugar level crashes. Now, when your blood sugar level crashes, you feel tired, you feel grumpy, you feel irritable, you can feel hangry, right? This is where you crave sugar. This is where, if you're a toddler, you have a tantrum. Sometimes I can be a bit hangry as well when my blood sugar drops, right? But it really affects our mental health. It has a massive effect on your mental health when your blood sugar drops, because it's another emergency situation for your body. And so when you're in an emergency situation, your body is pumping you full of stress hormones. You're also craving sugar because you've got no fuel, right? So if you were a car, you would have stopped driving, but you're not a car, you're a human being. So your body's got to cope with that state somehow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds so simple actually when you just say, well, if we just sort out the blood sugar level, because actually when you put it like that, it makes so much sense. And we've all experienced being hangry. We've all experienced that feeling of just, your mood changing in a nanosecond because you've tipped over from a little bit peckish into rah.
Yeah.
So what can we do, like starting with breakfast, I guess, what can we do to just maintain that through the day so that we're not having those crazy fluctuations?
Spikes, absolutely. Well, let me just show you this slide, right? And that will illustrate it beautifully. So you're looking at the light blue line there is your blood sugar going really high and really low. And then the pink line being in the pink, that is when your blood sugar is balanced, right? That is when you have plenty of energy. That is where you don't have any cravings. That's where your stored fat is burnt as fuel. And you're protecting your muscle mass, which is another really important thing for women in their, perimenopausal years to do. So in order to balance your blood sugar and not be on this light blue roller coaster, right? Because of course it's not just a roller coaster of blood sugar, it's a roller coaster of emotions, it's a roller coaster of energy, it's a roller coaster of fatigue. You really don't want to be there. It's a really crappy place to be. So food is all important in this. And what we want to do is we want to start our day really well. So when you're on that roller coaster, it's really hard to get off. Okay, you are at the mercy of what's happening in your physiology. So you just cannot help those sugar cravings. You can't help feeling tired. You can't help that hangriness, that irritability, right? But once your blood sugar is balanced, then it's okay. It's easy to stay on. It's easy to stay in the pink. It's really hard to get off the roller coaster. And the key is to start your day with some protein, right? So we need to start with stable blood sugar because then it's easy to stay on. So, breakfast cereals, and even for women in perimenopause, stuff like porridge and a really decent granola, it's still a meal that is solely based on carbohydrates. And when we take oats as a carb, they are a whole grain. They are good for your nervous system. They're full of fiber. They help your bowels. There's lots of good things about oats. But as a meal in itself, in a woman in perimenopause whose body can't control that blood sugar in the same way that it used to do when there was more estrogen around, it's a really bad meal choice, and can send you off on that spike. And people can see that. I don't know how you feel about whether you've ever experimented between having porridge for breakfast and having protein for breakfast.
Yeah.
And how does it affect you?
I mean, quite often at the weekend, we'll do kind of eggs on toast with maybe some spinach or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, fuller for longer and all the rest. Although I have to admit, I'm a big fan of a bit of granola with some yogurt. So I guess that's already sort of proteiny already.
It's better than just granola, right? So if you are so for me, if I have porridge, then I'm full till 10 o'clock and then I'm starving. Whereas if I have eggs or protein, then I'm good till lunchtime and I don't even think about food. And I know that means my blood sugar is balanced and I've just run out of fuel. That's why I'm going to eat. Whereas when your blood sugar fluctuates and it crashes, that's when your body is like saying, give me food. And that's when that, wanting to graze and just nibble comes in. But when you're having granola with some yogurt, there's the protein and the fat in the yogurt. So we would choose a full fat yogurt, right? Not a low fat yogurt. The sugar load in skimmed milk is higher than in full fat milk because they've removed the fat, and the fat is one of the things that helps to stabilize your blood sugar and keep you in the pink. So if you are having granola, then seeds, nuts, yogurt, coconut flakes, desiccated coconut, let's add some protein, fat and fiber in, because those are the things that stabilize your blood sugar. But I will say, if you are a granola or an oats or an overnight oats breakfast person, then do experiment with actually what happens if you have something that is protein based and also savory. It makes a huge difference to your blood sugar and then how you feel in that, with your mood, because remember, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about those crashes leading to low mood, irritability, grumpiness, being full of stress hormones. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose just because we've always, any of us, we're all guilty of this to a certain extent, well, that's just what I have for breakfast. And I think a lot of us kind of get into this thing of going, well, I can't quite face anything else for breakfast, so I just have what I have, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if it's not serving you any longer, it's time to change, isn't it?
Well, it's absolutely, but it's also time to go, okay, well, I might just try that for a few weeks. It's a little experiment, right? To try it and see how it makes you feel, because only then will you find out actually how it does make you feel. And then the impact, talking about mood, speaking to one of my clients the other day, and she just said, you know what, Sara, I'm losing weight, and this, that, and this is happening. I've just fallen out really badly with my children, and usually this would make me really stressed and just run around and feel terrible. And actually, I feel balanced. I know what's happened. I'm there for them. I've set some boundaries, and I feel balanced. And it's blood sugar. It's blood sugar balance that's enabled that response in her, rather than going into stress response. So it has a powerful impact on your emotional responses and your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, if we can get ourselves out of the low mood cycle, we're in a stronger position to make other changes anyway, aren't we?
Absolutely. This your blood sugar can balance in 7 days. It's very quick. So 7 days you're going to have to focus on eating more protein, eating regularly, eating more good fats, eating more fiber, reduce down your carbs, and preferably choose slow carbs. So I really encourage people to think differently about carbs. So they're thinking more about, well, carrots are carbs, parsnips are carbs, beetroot is a carb, butternut squash is a carb. All of those things got way more nutrition than white pasta.
Yeah.
Because we want to add in, part of blood sugar balance is having enough chromium and zinc, right, which is all contained within the husk of the rice or the wheat that gets refined away. So we need to think in terms of nutrients as well when we're talking about mood, not just blood sugar as well.
And I guess it's, what you've just touched on there is a kind of a global issue these days, that food is so processed. Even the stuff, not just your average carrot, but your bread, your pasta, your everything like that, where previously, once upon a time, it would have been kind of your homemade bread, so you'd use a rough flour or whatever. Now everything is so far from what it sort of is made from.
Yeah, and so you're talking about ultra processed foods, and that makes up 50% of the UK's diet.
I don't doubt,
food.
yeah.
Dr. Zand Van Tulleken's done a brilliant series on ultra processed food, but basically they found that they make you eat 500 calories more per meal if you're eating ultra processed food than if it was home cooked. And it's because the ultra processed foods are made specifically to mess with our taste and texture sensors in our mouth. So our brain is just confused. It just doesn't know what to do with this food, and it's all very high sugar. So yeah, there's just been a study come out about ultra processed food, and once they had accounted for all the other differences, smoking, lifestyle, country, age, they found the primary factor causing problems with diabetes and risk of mortality was ultra processed food. So there's going to be a lot more coming out about it. It's very interesting.
And I'm just going to ask this because I'm interested in this, and it's probably not interesting to people watching, but there we are. Do you think that transfers into sort of the animal feed as well? So, for the cheap mass-produced meats and whatever, is there? I suppose there's an aspect of. I'm not talking ultra processed like you're sort of like frozen lasagna or whatever, but but I guess the animal feed is more packed out to sort of bulk up and everything as well, isn't it? So we're getting that from every angle.
We are, and it changes the fat structure of the meat. So there's so much about that, Emily. It's actually such a big question. So if we're going to eat meat, we want to have grass-fed meat. Really, the best animal to eat would be the one that's wild, that's just been shot. that's lived in bliss its whole life, completely natural, and it's been shot and it hasn't known anything about it. But the fat structure in animals who are grass-fed is much healthier for us than it is if they are grain-fed. So it very much changes, and they become more unhealthy fats in grain-fed animals. But getting grass-fed animals is very, very difficult. You know, and you know, animals are giving antibiotics because they promote growth. You know, there's lots of things happening with our food chain that are way less than ideal, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's, I find it really interesting, and we could talk about this for hours, and I'm very aware that we mustn't go on for too long, but
Yeah.
When you sort of bring it back to stress and blood sugar and all the rest, the fact that the animals are being kept in a stressful condition and we are living a more stressful life, and we're all, you know, it's no wonder that there are so many more issues with low mood, depression, and so on.
Yeah, I think you know, some people say energetically you absorb the energy of the animal that you're eating, so it's really important they have a happy life. But I think it just links into our modern industrialized agriculture, and the impact that that is having on our health and well-being.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got too much food, you know, available, but we have, you know, the human body deals really well with scarcity of food. We were cave women. Sometimes the hunt failed. You know, that, you know, mostly we survived, right? With the human race is still here, but excess of food, the human body deals with it really badly, and then we get into a lot of trouble with our health.
I'm just going to quickly just, I know most of the protein sources we've talked about have been animal based. I know obviously there'll be people watching this who are vegetarian and vegan. What would be, because you know, there's always the narrative, oh, if you're vegan, where do you get your protein from? And I think it's always worth just covering off that there is a vast array of protein sources available to, you know, people who have chosen to go down a plant-based route. So what things would you encourage people to have as their protein?
So first of all, just before we go vegetarian and vegan, oily fish is one of the most valuable things you can have, specifically for low mood, because it's got all the beneficial fats in it that help your brain. Okay. But as far as other things which help low mood, so B vitamins and magnesium are really important. You get both of those from lentils. Okay, lentils, nuts, and seeds. So they work for both vegans and vegetarians. And dark green leafies as well, although they're not protein, so I'm kind of diverting a little bit. But you know, your most valuable sources of protein for a vegan or vegetarian woman in perimenopause is tempeh and tofu. So they have the highest amount of protein, and tempeh particularly as a fermented food, so it's really easy to digest and absorb, and it's good for your gut biome, which is also linked into low mood as well.
Awesome. So basically there's loads we can do.
Yeah.
And we've just, and the difficulty I know is that when any of us are in the low mood, it's very hard to see ways out. But I think everything you've described there is doable. You know, we've not sort of gone off on topics where people think, oh, I can't even start. You know, we're just going, okay, let's just look at breakfast. Initially, let's just look at breakfast.
Yeah, get more protein in it, get some good fats in it, and get some fiber in it. You know, chia seeds, that's another lovely vegetarian vegan protein with fiber and fat in it as well. So, you know, there's lots that you can do. Keep it simple, eat real food. And breakfast, you know, in terms of blood sugar balance, breakfast really is the most important meal of the day. There is no doubt about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Oh, you're welcome.